Winners win and losers lose is because when you figure out how to win at something and when you master something, that is a template that can be replicated for anything in life. The Greg Vetter Podcast, going through my new book, which is just a dedication to the field guide. We've got Gail Mona in the house.
Hi.
No vibe checks on Saturdays hat. She hasn't been able to explain that to me, but that's okay. All right, next up, we're going to start digging a little bit deeper and stop rushing through these. I get asked this question all the time for anybody trying to launch anything into retail. How do I get my foot in the door? Intelligence, action, persistence. That seems simple enough. So I spent the first couple weeks cold calling the Whole Foods stores in Annapolis to get past the receptionist to an actual decision maker. Gatekeepers are trained to make sure guys like me don't get past them to the boss. So I had to be persistent and smart. And I researched a way in which Whole Foods stores procured new products and found out that each store had an individual with the responsibility of buying local. I also figured out that each store had a shift change midday. And so I would call twice a day, once in the morning and once in the afternoon for 2 weeks until I finally got somebody that would pass me along to the decision maker. Once I got him on the phone, my foot was kind of in the door and I was able to make my pitch. Luckily, it worked. And he agreed to taste the salad dressing and then eventually went on to be my first customer. Now, that seems easy enough, but I think the key to all of this was I was willing to make 2 phone calls a day, every day, until I got an educated answer. I had been cold calling for insurance for years. So I was waking up unbelievably early. I was in my cubicle by like 6:15. I was cold calling until 5 in the evening. And so I knew what an educated yes was and an educated no. I knew what it was like for a gatekeeper to tell me, no, they're not interested, go fuck yourself. And so when all of these people listened to my initial pitch and just quickly said, no, they're not interested, well, I knew that wasn't an educated answer because I knew they bought local. And I knew that the general decision maker was not the person picking up the phone. So I called twice a day for 2 weeks straight, and they said no twice a day for 2 weeks straight. This is where people start failing. Day 1, 2 no's. Day 2, 2 no's. Day 3, 2 no's. I don't know how many people go to day 14 or 15 or 16 getting 2 no's. And so how do I get my foot in the door? You have to be able to actually pitch your product to the right person. And it's a math game.
And would you say the hardest part is finding the correct person
No.
to get that answer?
The hardest part
He's a rejection.
is continuing to press on, being stubborn, and going until you get the right person.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, can I speak with the person that buys salad dressing? They're not it. Can I speak to the person that's responsible for buying local products? They're not it. So you're constantly changing to see who you can get on the phone to get a little piece of information so that the next time you call, you're a little bit more educated than the time previous to that.
And they can point you in the right direction.
Right. So initially, I got in with a shelf-stable salad dressing buyer.
Okay.
And when they tasted my product, they said yes. But it turned out my product was refrigerated.
So then you got to know.
So they were like, well, I can't help you. You got to talk to the next person. But what I had was somebody that had tried it, loved it. And so I used that to get the yes. So how do I get my foot in the door? I always joke, you need to be a stalker. You need to be obsessed with getting in touch with the person no matter what the response is. And you mentally need to basically break every social norm you've ever been taught, because no one's taught to call someone 2 or 3 or 4 times a day, right? That you would get yelled at by your parent or by the person you're calling, which is like, why the fuck are you calling me this much? If I wanted to speak to you, I would call you back.
So how do you deal with that?
I just kept my goals in the front of my head, which was, someone's going to try this shit. And they're going to tell me to my face that they hate it or that they love it. But I'm not going to let somebody generally just tell me, no, they're not interested. Because I don't believe that. It's like a sports team, like a college sports team or a pro, they have a full roster. But if you have the option to get the number one recruit in the country, you don't care that your roster's full. You're recruiting that kid. And so for my product, I'm like, okay, well, let's imagine it's the number one high school recruit in the country. Someone is going to want it.
They're taking them.
They're going to fucking take it, and they're going to get rid of the 8th best quarterback or defenseman I don't give a shit what sport it is. If you have access to the best, you make room for the best. And so that was my mindset. Now, am I saying that's great for dating? No. You're probably going to get a restraining order against you, to be honest with you. Am I saying that that's great for a job interview? Could be. It worked in The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith. It may not work with an HR manager. But that's also the other thing, which is speaking to the right person. Because if you go and speak to the CEO, they're probably going to love your persistence. If you speak to the HR person, they're probably going to be annoyed
And
that you're stalking them. And so you just got to go until you can't go no more. And so that's what I was willing to do. And Genevieve said something funny, which was, how much money are you going to spend seeing whether or not this works? I said, as much as it takes.
Because you believed in the product. You believed in the vision.
Well, I don't even know if I did.
At that point, because it was so early?
I believed that I needed to do something. And this is what I was willing to try and do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I didn't know if it was going to work. I knew it tasted better than everything else. I knew that the rest of bottled products that were sitting on the shelf tasted like shit. I didn't know it was going to be as successful as it ended up becoming.
But you just knew that you had something special.
I knew I was willing to break social norms to find out.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I knew.
So can we talk a little bit more about breaking social norms in business?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that?
How else are you going to stand out? Just think about think about applying for a regular job.
Okay.
At a big company. There's 10,000 applicants.
Ooh.
Why is anybody going to choose your random mediocre resume? They're not. Unless you're the smartest, most dialed in, well-seasoned human on the planet, which I wasn't, how else can you make waves? And that's what I needed to figure out, and that's what I tried to figure out. And so standing out is kind of easy. I mean, you just think about what makes you the most uncomfortable without looking like a total fucking asshole, and trying to find the balance of bold and intelligent without looking like a fucking idiot. We found that balance in the beginning. We waxed all of our bottles with like a burgundy wax, so similar to Maker's Mark. So it stood out from a packaging perspective. The flavor made it stand out. The story made it stand out. And so we wanted to be bold, but in a way that was intriguing. And so that's what we were trying to do. And I see it a lot, and anybody can do it in any business, with any product. Just a lot of people don't do it. They're trying to just fit in.
Do you think that's because they're scared or just comfortable?
I think some aren't creative.
Mm.
I think some are scared, right? They're playing to not lose instead of playing to win. And I always tell my kids, winners win and losers lose. And the reason that's true is because when you figure out how to win at something, and when you master something, that is a template that can be replicated for anything.
Anything in life?
Anything in life. I mean, being elite at sports, sacrifice, time, planning, dedication, focus, the ability to endure pain, delayed gratification, all of this stuff that directly translates into doing anything. And so I used everything that I had figured out in athletics. I used it for business, and it worked for a really, really long time. And then in building a brand, you learn additional stuff that you can then apply to other products that then have allowed me to participate in products that are not specific to salad dressing, right? Vodka, porta-johns, drum seats, produce, all different types of food products. So it does end up being a template for success. Like the book is a great example. We ended up doing it ourselves because it was exactly like launching a new product. It's packaging, communication, marketing, advertising, PR. It's all the same shit. So there's a couple books I recommend in kind of figuring that out. Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, great. You know, Building Nike, wonderful. Pitch Anything by Orrin Clough. It's basically how to raise money. He's an investment banker that broke down the different power dynamics in pitching companies for fundraising. And then Grit by Angela Duckworth, which just, she breaks it down scientifically that the key to success is just the ability to never quit. And that's where, I mean, every fucking sports quote ever is about the ones that win are simply the ones that don't give up. So it was similar to getting my foot in the door. How to create this habit. I think this is important. We brushed over it on the past couple field guides because we did books to read, quotes that resonate. I don't know if we really got into the habit side of it. But it's about making persistence your rhythm and really just starting to build a habit of being persistent, like making a game out of being persistent. And that's easy in the sense that, okay, you want to get your foot in the door, set a target. I'm going to make 5 calls today. I'm going to send 10 emails, and I'm going to stop by 2 offices a day. You're going to get some traction if you do that. What fucks people up is the drop-ins. People are not built for that. Emails are easy. I don't even really count those, but you never know who's going to respond. The calls, you got to get mentally prepared for. Like, you got to be in a mindset to make phone calls. Because when somebody picks up, you better be ready.
Because what if they just hang up on you?
Well, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
Who cares about that?
Yeah.
The big thing is when they go, yeah, tell me what you got.
You're like, here we go.
Because they're used to getting hung up on all day. So
when you get that opportunity to talk, you're like, oh shit.
And I used to pick up like robocalls and see how good people were. They were not ready.
You're like messing with them.
Yeah, I'm like, tell me, all right, let's go. Let me hear what you got. And they're like, oh, no one's ever, usually they just hang up on me. And you're like, well, you could have had a sale and you fucked it up.
Yep.
So creating the habit, it's getting 1% better every day with shit that you're uncomfortable with. Make a certain amount of calls. When I was cold calling for insurance, I made this template where if I got 100 points in a week, I knew I was going to be successful. So making a phone call was 1 point. No, that's not right. Speaking to a person and pitching them on your stuff, the right person, 1 point. Getting a referral, 2 points. Setting a meeting, 3 points. Going on a meeting, 4 points. Closing a deal, 5 points.
So this is how you made it into a game for yourself.
Yes. And then I would track how many calls it took me to get 20 points in one day. I could not leave until I had 20 points. And so then 5 days in a week, if you had 100 points by the end of the week, you were going to be successful. So in the beginning, it would take me like 200 calls to get 20 points. But then by like year 2, it would take me 50 calls. And then I was just cruising. But again, this habit, this point system, the gamification to take away all of your anxiety, that's how you get in the door.
And you told me about this, like you would be strategic about it. So you'd be like, they're going on lunch break right now, so I'm going to call right after when they're sitting down at their desk. Right. But it's smart. That's when you get people to answer the phone.
Right.
So just learning their patterns is how you be successful as well.
So I would call CEOs and CFOs before 9 a.m. because their assistants or secretaries would get in by 9 and they would block me from talking to them. So I would leave them all voicemails with the time. Good morning, Abby. 6:30 a.m. It's Greg Vetter on this date. And so I would just imagine them coming in checking their voicemail and being like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy?
He's hitting me up every day at the same time.
Yeah. Then from 9 until 11:30, I would call HR people because they're at their desk. Everybody stops picking up the phone at 11:30 because they're thinking about lunch. They get back at 1:15 because their lunch is from 12 to 1. They're walking slow. 1:15, I'd start calling. And I would call until like 4:30 because they would all stop picking up the phone. The HR people would stop picking up the phone at 4:30. And then I would start calling CEOs and CFOs again at 5.
Because the secretary.
Because they're all
out.
And that's how I would get them.
It's genius.
And then I would never be formal. I would always, like, if the CEO's name was Gregory Vetter, I'm like, Abby, hey, is Greg in? And sometimes they just go, yeah, sure. It's in the end. And they'd be like, how the fuck did you get through to me? But that's how
Acting like your besties.
Yeah, that's how I would do it.
Smart. Very smart.
But a couple times I got their cell phones and like,
oh,
they were fucking pissed.
Yeah.
How did you get this number?
Oh.
I would never rat out the assistants. I'm like, I found it online. They're like, no, you didn't.
You didn't.
Like, I'm just trying to sell you some insurance, bro. Hook me up. I'm 24. So that's how you create the habit. Increase the calls, the drop-ins, the emails by 1% every day. Make it a game. That's how you can get it done. And then again, the other thing I did is I stood out. I listened to what everybody else said in my office, and they weren't having success because they were trying to be too formal and cool and sexy. And I was like, I'm just going to make this shit like a guy talking to a guy. Like, hey, big dog.
Yeah.
I specialize in this. I'm an expert, which I wasn't. Let me come in and help you. And it worked. I mean, I ended up making good money as a young man, just cold calling my ass off.
Did you have one of the headsets?
I did not have a headset.
Wow.
Yeah. I just was phone, boom, boom, boom. I'm not sure why I didn't have a headset. I think I was too poor. Because this was the time where I literally had no money and I was eating 2 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every day. That's all I ate. Because I didn't have any money. So I would get, my splurge was I would buy seedless raspberry Polliner all fruit jelly. And the funniest was one time an account manager was like, how come you only eat peanut butter and jellies all day? I go, because that's all I can afford.
Mind your damn business.
Yeah, like, fuck off.
Yeah.
You keep going out to lunch every day, spending $35.
You want to take me out to lunch? That'll
Right,
go.
I'm out here getting it. So, gamification, 1% better, caffeinate yourself. That is how you get your foot in the door.
So caffeinate yourself, but what is your rule?
I do not drink caffeine after 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
And why?
It takes 8 hours to digest. And so I want to be asleep before 10 o'clock. So my last caffeinated beverage is at 2 in the afternoon. And then I do not drink any caffeine for the rest of the night. And then when my head hits that pillow, I mean, I literally cannot sit in like a lounge chair past 8 o'clock or I'm asleep. But if I keep moving, I'm like a shark. If I keep moving, I can go. But if you have me on a pillow,
You're done.
I'm literally, dude, I'm asleep in like deep sleep in less than 3 minutes. I'm fucking out. I got no sleeping problems at all.
So long story short, know your limits with the caffeine.
Yes. Next field guide. Should I quit my day job? It's a good one. So I'm not going to read this one word for word, but here's how I decided to quit the day job. I looked at what my job was, and then I thought, can I get this job again if I quit? Maybe not at this company, but generally speaking. The answer was yes. So I go, okay. So there's low risk there. What do I need to survive? How busy am I? And how far can I take doing both with still executing at a high level? So the first year, I could do both. I don't know if I was executing at a high level, but I could do both. And the funds from insurance allowed me to not have to raise money. I could use all of my commissions from insurance. That's how I funded everything. That was fine. As year 2 began, I convinced Genevieve and Brian to quit their jobs.
Was that hard?
It was not hard for Brian because he had just gotten a new job, like his first job. So he was making 30 grand. He was playing professional lacrosse. It wasn't that difficult. We said we'd pay him something. He was still making some money from lacrosse. That was fine. Genevieve was like, this better fucking work because
she was a baller.
Yeah, she was like, had a good job, making good money.
Yeah.
But I was making more. And so then we had a family decision to make. Was she going to be working full-time forever at that job? The answer was no. There's going to be a lot of travel. They did a lot of drinking. And so she's like, okay, like I can commit to this. Makes my schedule more flexible. I'm more vested in the success of it. So that was a tougher conversation. I will say though, when I quit my job and fully committed to salad dressing, the universe conspired in my favor. And 30 days later, we got a national deal with Whole Foods. So we were in 60 stores, piecemealing it together, kind of scared. This money was funding that business. How fast could we grow? How big could we get? The minute I went full time, 30 days later, we were a national brand. So it was this interesting omen of if your intentions are true and your heart is pure and you're in the journey for the right reasons, the universe will reward you. But most people never get there.
Because of the fear of the unknown.
Fear of the unknown. Their ego's tied up in their job title or their college degree or, the social recognition that their job provides. Everybody wants a side hustle. Everybody kind of wants the best of all worlds at all time without any real sacrifice. I don't know if that's possible. But I do know that you're only going to learn from taking the leap. And to me, I would much rather be sitting on a rocking chair when I'm 80 years old saying, I swung for the fences and I tried everything that I needed to try, and I wasn't scared than being on a rocking chair at 80 years old going, God, I had the best idea, but I was too big of a pussy to do it. I'm not doing that.
No.
I'm not going for that.
So I have a question. So we talked about when you should quit your day job, but at what point did you realize that Tessie Mae's, it wasn't just a side hustle? It could be something that is lucrative, could be built into a multi-million-dollar company, or did you even have that hindsight?
I think we got into when we were in all of the Whole Foods in the Mid-Atlantic and the Southeast and the Rocky Mountain region. That was one of our first regions. I knew we could be a national brand because we were from southern New Jersey to Atlanta and then in Colorado, and all the sales numbers are the same. You're like, okay, now I need to just get in every region in the country. Again, we were kind of 3 years ahead of the clean eating movement and organic food. So I didn't know how mainstream we could be because the Safeways of the world and the Walmarts and the Targets, they weren't selling organic food at the time. But I knew we could make it into, a $5 million business, a $10 million business. I knew we could do that. I don't know if I thought we could get it to like 100 at the time. And then that just came with kind of market conditions and luck and kind of not sacrificing the quality of the product and then building a good brand. So
It's very interesting.
yeah. When to quit the job? I would say for people, read books about people that have built stuff. So the story of Patagonia, Let My People Go Surfing. The story of Lululemon by Chip Wilson. Howard Schultz's, both of his books, Pour Your Heart Into It and Onward. Those are really good books of people that just said, I'm going to go build something. I don't know what it's going to turn into, but I'm going to do it anyway. I don't know how many people do that.
Not a lot.
I think everybody wants immediate
Gratification.
Yeah, immediate gratification, immediate success, and they're not doing it to build something of substance. And honestly, I think that's why it doesn't end up working the way that they want it to work. Because they're making the wrong decisions in the beginning. And I'm not saying I made the right decisions along the way. But initially, the reason I did it all was for the right reasons.
And that's how you knew that your story was different.
I guess. Something interesting. Genevieve had one magnet on her college fridge. Leap and the net will appear. And I just always, every time I would open the fridge, leap and the net will appear, leap and the net will appear, leap and the net will appear.
And you leaped.
And I leaped. And so I think that that's a wonderful Zen proverb that is very true.
It's one of those full circle moments
Yep.
in your lifetime.
Yep. In terms of creating the habit of figuring out how to quit and do it full time is basically almost like your quit plan journal where you set all of these metrics and you start living in a way that allows you to quit. Because when you break down a salary hourly, so you divide it by 2080, that's basically your hourly rate. Or that's one thing, which is interesting to think about because we all think about our salary in totality. I make this much a year.
I'm like, mind blown.
Right. But you don't think about what does that actually mean per hour. Then look at your expenses. How much do you really need to survive? It's not your salary. It's way less. So then you now have your kind of minimum requirement for expenses, and you can change those. Sell a fucking car, change your rent. There's things that you can do depending on how hard you want to quit your day job. All of this is the habit that your mind is going to need to eventually have the balls to do it. And so it's boiling it down to its most basic fundamental level of, okay, for my bills, I need to figure out how to make $2,500 in a month. I'm making that up. What can I do if the new venture doesn't give me $2,500 in a month? What else can I do to get that? I could do lacrosse lessons at $100 an hour. Okay, how many would I need to do to pay my bills so that I could do this full time? So that's how I thought through being able to quit my job. And then that's where my mind began to go. It wasn't, I'm going to lose this salary. It was, I need this for my mortgage, this for food, this for my car. That's it.
The rest you'll be able to figure out.
And then the rest I'll figure out. And we sold one of my cars. Genevieve and I shared a car for a while. That was horrible, by the way. Because we had a fucking kid. Like, that was shitty.
So then you have to put in like kid expenses still.
Kids aren't that much.
They're not?
No.
Why does everyone say that they're so expensive?
Kids are expensive if you want them to be expensive. Oh, I got to get them the New Balances. Oh, I got to get them a new fucking fall outfit. Oh, got to take this. Yeah, no. Put them in a fucking onesie and make them eat what you eat. Yeah, right? So, are my kids expensive? Yeah. They are. Just school. That's the thing. Fucking club sports, trainers, tutors. Like, these motherfuckers are expensive. But they built the habits now that they can quit it all and still be successful.
100%.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Think you gotta start them again.
And there's something to be said about the foundation of what's needed long term versus how you see them in that moment. So my oldest girl, horrible athlete, young, horrible, super smart, very pretty, horrible athlete. And so Genevieve and I were like, well, I guess she's just, she's going to be smart and she'll pick up some hobbies along the way. But she's going to do the same strength and conditioning and movement pattern education that the other kids are going to do. One, you just need it in life so you don't run like a drunk giraffe. Two,
Boy, anime girl.
right. Two, if she ever decides to be in sports or choose a sport, at least she'll have the foundational understanding of her body. She'll be strong. She'll be generally fast. And then all she has to learn is a skill. And in my opinion, the best athletes of any sport are just pure athletes. maybe their skills 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10, but they're just faster, stronger, meaner than everybody else. Well, I can help with that. And then it turned out, 5th grade, she wanted to play a sport. Put her in. She was fucking horrible, but she could focus on the skill. She had a solid foundation, and now she's very elite. But that all goes back to the habits of you need to have a fundamental and foundational understanding of what you just need in life. You should be strong. You should be fast. You should be smart. You should be kind. You should lead by example. You should leave things better than when you found them.
You should be mentally tough.
You should be mentally tough. You should be curious. I think if you, yeah, and I think if you're those things, you're better off than most. And some of you are like, well, not everybody's strong and not everybody's fat. You can be. That's the thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So, what if you don't have like parents that put you in that when you're like, can you be taught this stuff?
YouTube. I love nothing more than watching those fucking kids in their fucking bedroom. This is gonna sound super weird, but like that go, I'ma get fast. It's like a 5-minute video of a kid teaching himself in YouTube. Like he's like, I'ma do pop up, from the knee, bounce up to the feet, jump. And then they just like systematically teach themselves how to be explosive. No trainer, no facility, in a tiny fucking bedroom in like Russia. And they're out there getting it. And that desire is obviously that person's going to be super successful. But I don't think you can look at a kid and go, yeah, they're just not built for that. Now, some kids are gifted. Some kids pop out and are just built fucking different. And I'm not saying that, right? But I am saying you can get pretty fucking good at almost anything. How do I avoid analysis paralysis? This is easier said than done for most.
That's good.
I'm a big believer that you just have to fucking put it out there. And then you need to strategically improvise. I think too many people get bogged down by research, and they also compare too much. They'll say, okay, well, this company is so sick and their packaging's so badass and this. Mine sucks. I don't like to do that. You can definitely look for a comparison as like a benchmark of where you need to be or within spitting distance. And then obviously you got to make your shit special, right? And so the special factor should be able to outperform how beautiful something looks. So you have to look at it in its totality. But at the same time, you also need, for me, I just set deadlines and momentum. And I'm like, I'm going to fucking take this until it's over and we're going to go. And then I'm going to launch it and we're going to see what happens. When you get momentum, don't let go of it. And if momentum starts to fade, you need to have an action-causing event to reignite the momentum. And maybe that's launching it.
But then what if you burn out?
In terms of what? Like your energy?
In terms of like you're saying, keep the momentum going. Does that end at some point? Does it stop?
Energy for yourself. Rest days exist for a reason. feed days exist for a reason. But in terms of momentum and avoiding analysis paralysis, create a team of people, an accountability team. You did this with fucking bodybuilding. That's sure.
Story time.
This motherfucker at Tessie Mays goes, I'm going to sign up for a bodybuilding competition.
Hell yeah.
He said it to my face. I go, when's the date? He goes, man, fuck. I knew you were going to say that. So he gives me the date. And I go, oh, I'll be there. And so in that moment, he knew I was going to be there. Then I just checked in with his ass every day. I'm like, how we doing, dude? And so he's lifting. Was it with your cousin? Just your buddy?
Great.
And we went, and you did the funniest, because you were in the what, swimsuit division or something? And he came out and started doing like the fucking robot to a dance. But going back to analysis paralysis and avoiding that, the accountability team of people that are going to hold your feet to the fire, I think is so fucking important so that you don't get lost in your own head. Because so many times with so many problems, we don't write the problems down. We keep them in our head. They're bouncing around. We start going down foxholes and spiraling out of control. And you think it's this unbelievably complex problem and there's no way to figure it out. And you write it out and it's one fucking sentence. And then you ask another person, they go, well, have you thought about it like this? No, I haven't thought about it like that. Well, if you called this person, they can help. And if you have that all the time, you will avoid analysis paralysis. And you'll be able to accomplish your goals easier and faster. It's kind of a mentor thing, but not really, because they're your peers. And they're really just there to call you a bitch when you're weak.
When you need it.
Yeah. This is Greg Vetter. We're going through my new book, which is Just the Field Guide. Thanks for being here. We'll see you soon.